everybody, to this week's Say Report, and I'm Sejohn Sarowick, and I'm here with my host companion, Devon Decker.
I'm Devon Decker.
What? I did what you asked. Why? God, please, we can't go back into the Wah Boys. We can't do it.
We can't be. We got all of that out beforehand. Like, jokes are allowed. Wario not.
Jokes allowed. No Warrios, though. I will say that I will watch a Jackass-style show called the Wah Boys. Just putting that out there.
You know what I want it to be, though? I want it to be like the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, where it's like, and then it's like Steve-O and Bam Margera.
With like the live-action version of them, and then
like really weird, like make no friggin' sense. The craziest thing about the Super Mario Brothers Super Show is that like it's all Super Mario Brothers 2 references, which like sort of feels like the black sheep of the family.
Right, which isn't really what Nintendo considers to be canon, but that's actually the perfect choice for them then, because then they could tell whatever story they wanted in any way, and it didn't really affect anything.
And plus it set a very dangerous precedent for Deke, because then like Super Mario Brothers 3 came along and they're like, oh, we know all the Koopa kids have names, but we're going to give them our own names.
We can do whatever we want. That's right?
Oh, and when Super Mario World comes out, there's gonna be cavemen. There aren't cavemen in the game, but there's gonna be cavemen.
There's those little fuzzy things that go around on the pipes. What are they called? Those aren't cavemen? No, I guess those are men.
What are you talking about? The little black guys, the little the fuzzies. They're called fuzzies.
Yeah, the fuzzies, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, those aren't cavemen. I mean, those aren't like hairy cavemen. As I get.
Sorry, Devin. I'm trying to revive my childhood after you've destroyed it here.
How did I destroy your childhood? What could I possibly have done to do that? I said that we should lean into it. It's the Super Wario Super Show, featuring the Wah Boys.
Oh my God, that means that they get their own wah rap and everything too. I'm so in for this show. We have to create this.
Dash real fast, hold in your arms, you load the coins, come on, do the Wario.
Ouch, that hurt a little. That was awesome.
That's what I got. I'm so sorry. So we're talking a lot about video games, and that's good because that's what I came here today to the Say Report to talk about. So Sejohn, choose your own adventure time. Do you want me to recap my weekend and then we'll finish with your stuff, or do you want to go first and then we'll finish strong with how I spent my whole Saturday?
Oh, we should probably talk a little bit about my stuff because I don't have much going on, man. And so we'll just kind of throw that out of the way before we start talking to you, because I'll be entirely honest, you've had me curious.
Oh, I have been a total cock tease. I have been the worst.
No, man, my weekend has not been anything fun. I've been well, okay. So the one fun thing I've been able to do escape into from time to time is I'm getting deep into some Breath of the Wild right now, and I don't know, is now the time and place where we talk about Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, if you're ready to talk about Breath of the Wild, that's perfect. That's a perfect header to this episode.
All right. Well, so I've been going through this stuff with work. I don't know if I've talked about it yet on the show or not, but the company I work for, I think we kind of did with the Toy Story stuff. Toy Story. With the Toys R Us stuff. We talked about how with Toys R Us going into liquidation, it was kind of interesting for me to go through because my company that I work for is currently going through the same process. So, like, I'm dealing with that sort of thing at work, and I don't know if you've ever worked for a company going into liquidation, but it is crazy, man. Like, anybody that ever gets
and Hollywood Video.
Yeah, well, perfect examples, right? So, like, the weird stuff that happens at the end when, like, they're not really Hollywood Video anymore. They're just this, like weird, like, empty shell of a store that, and everybody coming in.
Shelving. And it's like...
Yeah, they're selling everything. They're selling the desk right out from underneath you as you're trying to, like, check out a customer. Yeah, it's crazy, right? And so there's been a lot of that stuff at work. Show up, seat of your pants, not sure what we're doing. My manager is, like, still my manager on paper, but at the end of the day, he's doing more bitch work than I ever did. Like, it's crazy. It's topsy-turvy. So I'm trying to escape from that, and my way of escaping from that is to come home and just dive just head first into this beautiful, beautiful game that So just to give you a clue of where I am, because there's no real way to talk about like how much is complete, but I just completed my first Divine Beast in that game. Like got through that whole
Okay,
thing.
so
Which
here's
is,
my question: which
yeah,
divine beast did you defeat first?
the elephant there. What's his name?
I just
Ramen.
elephant is what I
Ramen.
needed to know.
Okay, yeah,
Elephant
Ramen
was
the elephant.
enough. Wait, is the elephant the desert or the water world?
Water. It's the Zoras. It's the
Okay,
water world. I'll say it's the one that they. I mean, I might be wrong on this, but it being an open game, it doesn't have to be the first one you do, but it is pretty clearly the first one they funnel you towards
yeah,
in
they
terms
steer
of
you
like
towards it
yeah, in
100%.
terms of
That's
like
why I was
enemy strength
curious.
and abilities and stuff like that. Yeah, so I'll be and I could have done this days ago, but like I said, with everything going on at work, I've been kind of taking my time with this game to just kind of use it as an escape. So I've pretty much built my entire map. I've upgraded everything I can upgrade. I've gone out and found a whole bunch of really cool stuff up to this point. I know I can do more later on, but so as much as this is the first Divine Beast, I also have another 40 hours under my belt besides this. So like I'm pretty deep into it. But yeah, so this Divine Beast was
Cool.
pretty much a breeze because like I showed up and all of the monsters were like nothing and it was pretty crazy. It's kind of fun being overpowered in a Zelda game. But
I
anyway,
wouldn't
you were saying
know as I play a game where like I can have the strongest sword in the first chest and then kill everything. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. So, I mean, my first comment about Breath of the Wild, right? The first thing I want to say is I love that it's cell shaded art again because you had to have been there when everybody bitched about Wind Waker, right?
well, yes, yeah, man, and to that point, even it feels a little Skyward Swordy too in some of the animation choices, and that was also I know a big point of contention for people is they felt like it was just getting too cartoony. But yeah, it really leans into some Wind Wakerness that I really enjoy.
Of course, because Wind Waker is a great game. The beautiful thing about those games that don't look hyper realistic is that they age really, really well.
Hmm.
Like Ocarina of
Yeah,
Time, as much fun as it is and as much as people love it, you go back and play the N64 one, you're like, oh God,
yeah.
this is what we
Well,
thought we should be doing with polygons. We were
and
wrong.
and even we're getting to a point where even Twilight Princess is now pretty much the same way. You know, we're slowly getting up on its little edge of the canyon there, where suddenly it's going to be pretty hard to watch that in motion. Um,
It was pretty hard to
but
watch
this
that
game is just
emotion when it
gorgeous.
came out. I might be the only one who like Twilight Princess
Devin?
left me cold. Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I lost you for a second. What's up?
Is
You
that
were
right?
saying Twilight Princess what now?
Twilight Princess left me a little bit cold.
Yeah, I mean as a game or just in the art style.
The art style was like, oh, we're trying to recapture Ocarina of Time, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine, I guess. Like everybody wants a serious Zelda,
Yeah,
so
but
let's do
like
that. And then the gameplay,
yeah.
first of all, having to catch that fish twice in the beginning of the game is fucking bullshit. That's stupid. Like that's the dumbest thing. It's like
Yeah, you're right. A Zelda game making you do just
don't do
mundane
that.
tasks
Don't
for the
do that.
first three
You know what?
hours of it.
It's like go catch a fish, and you catch a fish, and then like the game doesn't tell you that you need to catch another fish. I remember that one. People ran to the internet to be like, fucking game breaking bug. Like, I caught the fish, I can't play the game anymore. Because that was the first time that a
God.
Zelda game was like the pack in game with a system. Because Zelda Twilight
Oh yeah,
Princess
yeah,
came
yeah.
out with Wii. So, like, everybody, like,
Right.
the Wii, even though we were all excited for it, and everybody was excited for the Wii, we were all so fearful that it wouldn't work and that it wouldn't meet our expectations. So, like,
Right.
that, if they did that intentionally, greatest troll of all time. That, like, oh, maybe catch another
Nintendo.
fish. Meh.
Let's show them that we're real. We're a real game. We're not going to tell you everything you need to know. Thanks. There's
Thanks.
certain things maybe you should though,
That's
guys.
great.
All right, never
Yeah,
mind.
like, maybe that fish is too small. Try to catch another one. That's all you gotta say. One line of text.
Mm.
Also, I fucking hated killing the bugs as the wolf. Like dumb. Like
Yeah.
just dumb. Oh, I hate that game. I want to go back and like play
Yeah.
through it, but then I think about it and I'm like, no, Twilight Princess is awful. Like I didn't enjoy any of it.
I I happen to love Twilight Princess. My biggest issue is again in them not telling you everything. I completely like lost track of the fact that you could lock onto things while you were on the back of the horse. And there's a boss fight halfway, maybe 75% of the way through that game, where you're going across the field on Epona and you're supposed to be taking this thing out. And it took me 3 days to beat that thing because I never once locked onto it. And I completely forgot that there was a lock-on mechanism. And the game did nothing to remind you of that. The second they told you, hey, you can lock on, that was pretty much the last time they told you that. And so, yeah, so I beat that entire thing without ever locking onto it once. And that was hard. That was a hard thing I did. And then I found out that I didn't have to do it that way.
What do you mean I let it take you 3 days? You just hold the L button and you shoot. I hate you.
Nope. Didn't hold that button.
No, I've never even gotten that far. I've done the first 3 dungeons, and then I'm like, I'm done with you, game. And I think part of it was, though, that I played it on Wii. Did you play it on Wii, or did you play it on GameCube?
Okay. I played it on Wii. No, I definitely played it on Wii because it was one of the first ones. My brother, hey Zach, bought the Wii and got the Twilights, and I played it on his system when I came home for like break from school one year or something. One Christmas break or something. So yeah, I remember that was definitely on the Wii.
Because people say that like it was built for GameCube, so play it on GameCube, and I believe that 100%. Because it did not feel right wiggling and a waggling to like do the sword. Or like aiming the bow.
Yeah, I was gonna say though, didn't the sword? This is the motion things.
No, the motion thing was Skyward Sword.
To get us back. Yeah, that's true with the motion with the different villains using different motions.
Yeah.
But to get us back onto Breath of the Wild, it is funny to me how much of this game feels like it was definitely meant for the Wii U. Straight up to the whole like Sheikah Slate tablet thing in your hands. Like you very much have a Wii U tablet in your hands the entire time. So it's pretty funny. But that aside, I think it actually they did it, and this is more about how cool the Switch is than the game. I think they do a fantastic job with converting those controls over to Switch controls, and it is so much fun to do some of the goofy ass like shrine stuff with the Switch controls. So how deep into this one did you get if you didn't finish Twilight Princess?
I beat Breath of the Wild. I was not all
right, cool.
Here's the thing. In that interim between the release of the Switch and everything, I got into the Link to the Past randomizer, right? So I was playing randomizer and all this other stuff, and it's like, all right, well, I like Zelda games again, right? And then I played through like Link's Awakening and all this, and I'm like, all right, Breath of the Wild, I'm going to finish it. And like that was a fucking challenge for me because it's not like a Zelda game. It's like freaking Skyrim, which is like not my type of game at all. Like I very much like here is your goal, go do your goal. Not here's a world,
that's not
fuck around for 100 hours. That's not my style.
It's very much not a direct game at all.
And I did that. Like I did the fucking around a little bit, and I did the stuff that I needed to do, and then like I kept doing it, and then I'm like, all right, now I'm done with the game, so I'm gonna finish the game. And that's a cool thing about the game, though, is that like when you get to the point where you're like, I'm done with you, game, you can finish the game. Like it's not one of those things where it's
relatively
like,
quickly.
Yeah. So that made me very happy. But I
think that's one of the things that I think that's one of the things that I really noticed about this is that as much as it is very much based in like a Skyrim open world aesthetic, it's very much like a beginner's guide to that world in that you can do things like, okay, I don't want to play this way, and it's okay if you don't. Like it is set up to not necessarily have to be played that way if you don't want to, but the option is there, which I think is really smart because if they forced you to play in that way, I don't think that people like you would have ever bothered with the rest of that game if you had to get through 150 hours of other content in order to really get to the end game. I don't think that it would have the love that it has from both classic fans and new fans, you know? Sorry, you were saying something.
No, what I was just going to say is that I forgot it. I lost it because you cut me off. No, I'm kidding. I mean, you did cut me off and I did lose it, but it's more but I'm not upset. What bothered me about this game, and this is stupid, and I know that it's stupid, is that it gives you everything at the beginning. Like you get the Sheikah Slate and it's like, here's the tutorial on using your iPhone. You can make bombs.
Yeah.
You can freeze time. And it's like, oh, okay. So now I have everything. Now on some levels, that's cool. That's fun because now the world is open to you, right? There's no gatekeeping or
Hmm.
anything. But like and coming off of Link to the Past randomizer, that gatekeeping is cool because there's still a lot that you can do before you find the thing that allows you to open up whatever path is blocked to you. And it's just like
Right.
that type of exploration. And I really like one of the best parts about like a Metroid game that doles it out in little pieces, or like even Zelda, right? Like I don't know why I needed to bring another game into it, is finding something that you can't pass yet. And by giving you all of the
Right.
tools in the beginning, you never really have that moment. Like you kind of
Well,
have that
and
moment later
so
on. I don't want to ruin two things that happen in the game.
yeah, yeah, don't ruin anything yet.
Um, like
But I
there's
will say that like they try and introduce that idea on a much more ethereal level, I feel like, in that like I was saying earlier, like you get to a point where you're going into into an area, right? Like, oh, I haven't explored this upper left corner of the map yet. And I've got all of this other stuff. I mean, I'm going to go check it out. And then you get up there and these things that you're going up against have an HP that is way out of your league, their hit power is way out of your like same thing. I mean, their attack power is way out of your league. Like you can't really go up against them. So there's that's going to stop you from doing too much until you can get better. There's also like other aspects where like you just haven't learned how to do certain things with your Sheikah Slate yet, where it's not that you couldn't do it then. If you were smart enough to figure it out then, you're smart enough to figure it out then. But like there's certain things that shrines will teach you that you may not pick up on unless you hit that very specific shrine, right? Well, until you get there and you learn that specific trick with your Sheikah Slate, you don't know how to solve this certain land puzzle outside, right? And so like it's not that you're not equipped to figure it out. You just literally haven't been given the information to yet, which is a really interesting way for them to introduce gatekeeping in this game. Very different than what you're talking about, because I mean you're not wrong. Like the way that Zelda used to do it, and the way that who knows what they'll do for future games, but the way that Zelda kind of became famous for what it did, and the same with Castlevania and Metroid and stuff like that. The idea of showing you an obstacle, making you realize, okay, I can't do this yet, making you explore a bit first and then come back to that obstacle has just always been part of that formula. At first, I was afraid that was going to be gone too, because of like what you're saying. They set you up with the Sheikah Slate within the first like hour of playing that game, and you will suddenly have all these abilities, and it's just like, okay, so then what is there left to learn? But I think that what it is that they're banking more on, like I said, the barriers being in your head more than physical barriers in front of you in this game. So I feel like that attitude is still there, just presented in a very, very different way than they ever have before. Whether or not it succeeds depends entirely on how smart the player is. And I will say that for somebody like you, who plays a lot of these types of games and plays a lot of games in general, like coming up against an obstacle, it's not hard for you to muscle through some of these more insane brain puzzles, like it's somebody that doesn't play games that often, or somebody that just isn't good at that type of puzzle, like it might not be so simple for them to just get through that stuff. So even though they're equipped to solve it, they might not be ready to yet,
I had never considered it from that position, that like, oh, you've played a lot of other games. And I think the reason is because of how different it is from the games that I usually play. Like I don't like Skyrim.
Mm.
Like that is not appealing to me.
Hmm.
And any game like that, I'm just like, all right, I'll play like an hour and be like, no, thank you. And that happened with this one,
Hmm.
but I'm like, but it's still Zelda, and I still want to do it. But I don't know. I also like armor is not something that makes me happy in games anymore. And that's like
Mm.
sort of the reward that Breath of the Wild is all about. Is like, hey,
Yeah,
you got
inventory management
yeah.
is more than half the game, and like armor management, weapon management is definitely a huge part of this one in a way that isn't true of any other Zelda. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that in other games either. But again, I think that they're doing a very low level, like entry level version of that in this game. So I can tolerate it. I won't say I like it, but it's definitely tolerable for me in this one.
So what I've
It's
wanted
part
to
of the reason that I
say.
don't like.
What?
Okay.
No, what is part of the reason you don't like what?
It's part of the reason it's part of the reason why I don't like Bloodborne and what do you call it, is like trying to figure all of that number stuff out, like going through inventories and figuring out all that sort of crap. That is a huge part of those games, and so I
And
was
that's like
surprised at how much I
second
was
nature to
actually.
me. And that's
Yeah.
actually what I was going to compare it to. Is I would be completely fine with the weapon durability system in Breath of the Wild if you had some indication that the item you're using is about to break. Like, not about to break.
Hmm.
Like, that's when they tell you, it's like, one more hit, this thing's dead. And it's like, well, that's not
Yeah,
fun. Like,
one or two more hits.
what are you doing? Like, and what I compare it to is Dark Souls 2, which is Dark Souls
Hmm.
2 is the best example of where weapon durability in those games really worked for me. And I didn't realize
Yeah,
how much it worked for me until I got to Dark Souls 2, because you go down, like, it gives you three different paths that you can go down. And if you go down the path that eventually leads you to, like, this seaport, it's not stupid hard. And there's not a lot of places where you can rest in between, like, the start of that path and the end of that path. And because every time you rest at the
right.
bonfire, your stuff is restored. So you get down to there and you go to the bonfire and you rest and you're at the seaport. And the seaport is it's shaped like a C, which I don't know if that was their plan, but now I want to believe that it was. Let's make the seaport a big letter C. And the whole thing that you do is you go through, and the enemies in there specifically have very strong armor that weakens your weapons by hitting it. No matter what your weapon is, like, the durability is affected more by these certain enemies. And you go through, and it's a long circle that you need to make that eventually brings you back to the bonfire. And by the time you're back to the bonfire, all of your weapons and stuff are at the breaking point. But you start to notice it, like, halfway through. So you're like, oh, do I muscle forward or do I go back and, like, try to approach it differently?
Hmm.
Like, it's the only time that I've ever really had to consider that. But it was one of those things where I'm like, because there's that tiny little gauge in the corner telling me that my sword is
Right.
getting weaker, and if it breaks, it's broken. Like, you have to go to the blacksmith to fix it. Like, if you rest, it'll be repaired. But if you go to the breaking point, then your sword is fucked unless you pay, like, the 2,000 souls to get it repaired. Which, if you don't
Yeah.
have your sword, that's going to be hard to do. And it was like this really cool thing, and I'm like, so I don't hate games where my weapons can break, as long as I have a way of managing it, as I can see it. And the way that, like, it seems so arbitrary in Breath of the Wild. And that is the thing that never
I
got
think their way of managing their way of managing that is to shotgun blast you with every weapon in the game as much as possible. I've got 5 of, like, hammers. I've got 3 swords. I've got 2 different Korok leaves. Like, it's crazy. Like, they throw everything at you and in, like, huge numbers. And I think that is their concept of managing that, is the idea being of just, no, use this one until it breaks because we're going to give you 5 more. And it isn't until you find, like, very, very specific specialty weapons when you suddenly start actually caring about those numbers. For me, like, it isn't until I find, like, very specific specialty weapons when I'm suddenly like, ooh, maybe I don't want to use this one so much right now. There's also, like, weird little tips and tricks on how to, like, save your weapons that, like, you pick up on if you're smart enough. Like, if you feed it to an Octorok, like, it'll actually repair your weapon and then spit it back at you. It's crazy.
I did not know that. Because
Yeah, like there's weird
spoilers for
little.
Breath of the Wild, not a big spoiler. This is not going to ruin the game for you. Eventually, you get the Master Sword.
What?
If I've ruined the game for you, I apologize. But eventually, you get the Master Sword, and that, like, it's a very smart thing about how that works. And I'm like, oh, fuck you, game. I'm just going to use this from now on. I can deal with what this is. This is how my mind functions in this type of game.
Right. And so, like, I think that what it is that as much as they are using very much a Dark Souls sense of, like, hey, your weapons will break, so, like, you make sure you know what you're using when, there is also the added element of, again, like my first Dark Souls, they're just like, have 5 swords so that when you inevitably forget to keep track of this one, it's okay, you've got 4 more. Like, that is their way of handling it, which is, for good or for ill, because then the problem is that I don't think they start you off with nearly enough inventory slots, but then they solve that problem real quick with the numerous number of Korok seeds you find everywhere. I don't know. So, like, the system is a little.
It's unbalanced.
And, like,
that's the thing. And once you get to a level of balance in the game, it's great. Like, I think they started with 2 little stamina. I think that stamina, like 2 more things of stamina would, like, go such a long distance to what you are.
Yeah.
Because by the time you can actually gain stamina, it's like, wow, you know what would have made this a little bit easier? Stamina. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's a hell of a game though.
yeah, and I mean
Like the
that's
way
the
that they're willing to change things is really, really cool and really interesting. And like I have never played a game quite like it, because like I said, I don't play the Dark Souls, so I don't really have that. And I like Skyrim and those games, but like the closest that I've ever really gotten into those are like Fallout games, and this is so different from anything like that, right? Like there's just something kind of really cool and unique about it, and on top of that, it is good. Like for all of its weird little ups and downs, it's a damn good game.
yeah. I'm not disappointed
Also,
that
the
I played
characters are
through it,
fucking
but
awesome.
like,
I've
I don't know.
never I've never felt that about a Zelda before, but like the side characters are all just like amazing. Prince Sidon is one of the greatest like NPCs I've ever come across. That
Yep,
handsome bastard.
you son of a bitch. I'm excited to. I would like to going forward check in with you regarding your Breath of the Wild
Yeah.
adventures and escapades.
Oh,
Because I don't think
we
you're
should
going to
definitely
get
do that.
to
And
Super Mario Odyssey level with this game. I think that is a
I was
uniquely
about to
Devin
actually
Decker
bring some of
thing.
that up though.
Um,
I was actually about to bring that up real quick. We should also just quickly apologize to everybody because, or I should maybe, I don't know. Apology is not the right word, but yeah, that Super Mario Odyssey thing ain't happening anymore. I
yeah,
got into that game and I started doing some of those darker stars, I'm gonna call them, because they are just deep and dark, and I don't want anything to do with them, man. There's some stuff that you have to do for sorry, moons in that game that just like I've got no interest in doing anymore. Like, man, and what I love is that the game is not asking me to. I'm not saying this as a knock against the game, because as far as the game is concerned, it's giving me everything that it should have. It's given me everything that it should have already, and it has. Like, I've won that game, and I've done a couple of like deeper things in that game, because I did beat the boss rush and stuff like that. That massive level at the end is
it's
amazing, but I don't
amazing.
know if
That's
I'll
the
ever be
best
able to
part of the
finish it.
game. You've
Yeah,
never finished it?
it is really badass. I got up to the lava parts and got through the lava parts, but then I'm trying to think of what exactly kept killing me. I don't know. It's been a
Fuzzies.
while since I've been in that
A
because I'm so
platform full
focused.
of fuzzies.
Yeah, that stupid fuzzy coming on back. The
Yep.
damn caveman got me. Caveman on a wire. um, Man, yeah, no, that game is fun and crazy, and the fact that it would let me beat it into the ground like it did is actually really cool. But I've done it. I've beaten that game, and I don't need to go
It's
back to
hard
it
to
right
go
now.
back once you're
So
like. It's strange.
yeah, man.
It's one of those like it's hard
And
to go
I will
back to
say that
this.
I even really like the suits and the balloon challenges and all that stuff is awesome. And like I love that stuff. But again, I don't. It's the only game I think I've ever played where I am walking away and I feel like I have still finished it no matter when I walk away at this point. Like I don't. It's so weird. Like it's so weird. I feel like I finished that game months ago and I've just been sitting with it with maybe a little too long. I don't know. Mario Odyssey, you were a weird game
It's one of those
in
games
so
where
many
like
different ways.
your momentum is what drives you, and as soon as you lose
Yeah.
momentum in that game, it's done. Like it's like because if
But
you're
what's
playing
really
it
interesting
every
is
day, you're like, yeah, I gotta get further, I gotta get further, I gotta get further, and then like, oh man, I'm going away for the weekend, and I forgot my Switch. No, and then you sit down on Monday and you're like, why did I enjoy you? What was fun about
well, and
you?
what's really smart about it though is that it doesn't require you to do 1,000 moons in order to win that game. They're just like, no, just get 600 and we'll call it even. Like, yeah, there's another bazillion moons left in the world, but that's okay. You don't need to get those if you don't want to. So like, it's smart enough that it gives you the ability to have that momentum moving you forward, but it ends early enough that momentum you'll still have plenty of that momentum to get there. Like it's not hard to finish at all. So really smart, but like I said, just a really weird way to build a game. Kind of a lot like what's going on with Breath of the Wild. Like a lot of really smart stuff in that game, just weird implementations of like
Implementation.
everything.
Are you okay, man? You're stumbling over your words today. Did you eat
Yeah, we're
some
recording
like
early, and so
mushrooms?
I'm just. It just
Like, oh, I
no,
found
I am.
mushrooms out backyard.
What, are you doing a lot of that lately? What are you?
No. I haven't done. I don't eat strange fungi. I don't know what we're talking about. This was a weird detour. Anything else to add, Sejohn, before I go into my weekend?
No, give me what you got, Devin. Let me hear what happened to you because I need to hear this story.
Okay, so Friday, I watched The Wizard because 4/27 is The Wizard Day, When's the last time you watched The Wizard? I'm asking for real answers.
You mean like
Fred Savage,
the
Luke Edwards,
Fred Savage Mario game, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen that movie 4 or 5 times in my life, all of them before I was like 10.
All right, so
I don't think I've watched that movie since I was like in single digits.
we make promises
I remember enjoying
on
it.
this show. We make promises on the Say Report. And a lot of the times they do not come to fruition. But let me tell you what our very special episode for April 2019 is going to be.
Oh, okay. A whole year from now. Man, we've got a whole year to break this promise.
The Wizard. The same in-depth analysis and look at The Wizard as we gave to Coyote Ugly a year ago. Because, god damn it, The Wizard deserves it.
Okay.
I'm
so
not. I
on
am
Friday,
not kidding.
you watched Fred Savage.
So
You watched the Fred Savage classic.
I mean, like we call it the Fred Savage Classic. He's not even the Wizard. He's not the titular character. Luke Edwards is.
Is he not the?
He's not the Wizard. No,
I
his
guess,
younger brother
right.
Jimmy is.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
So
Weird.
So there's 2 reasons why we watched The Wizard, right? Well, 3 reasons when you add in the fact that it was 4/27, so it was the perfect day to do it. Reason 1 is Dale wanted to watch The Wizard before we saw Ready Player One, because she's like, it's like the only other movie I can think of that's like video games. And I'm like, it's very different from what Ready Player One is. And we couldn't find a copy of it anywhere. And I've actually figured out why.
There's also, I will also point out, Dale, that there's Gamer with Gerard Depardieu. No, what's his name? Gerard Butler there. So the Gamer with Gerard Depardieu would be a very different movie as well.
I would love to see
you want
that
video
movie.
game movies? That's a terrible one for you.
No, I think it was more like the fact where like video games have like a weird clout. Like there's this cool thing about The Wizard, right? Like spoilers for a year from now, where like if you're good at video games, you get respect in that world. It's like
yeah.
It's really strange because it's kind of like Rain Man in like the older brother taking his younger brother who and people say that Jimmy is autistic. He's clearly not. Like I've had that in my head for a while because people say it, but rewatching it in my 30s, I'm like, no, the kid's traumatized. The kid is traumatized because he watched his twin sister die in front of him. And he just like shut down because of that. As most 9-year-olds would probably do.
Right. Yeah, I think that it's a little harsh and a little quick to judgment to give that character like a mental diagnosis based on what happens in that movie. But
I think that part of the reason is Rain Man came out the same year. So there is this conspiracy that all mention of the word autism was taken out of the movie because they didn't want to draw comparisons to Rain Man. That's
is that verified
thing.
By anybody?
I don't. Well, apparently,
or is that verified by
we'll
anybody?
We'll get to the verification of that because my Wizard adventure took me down a rabbit hole that I did not expect to have to go down this weekend, and that's only the tail end of this conversation that we're about to have. So the one reason was Dale wanted to see it because, she wanted to see it since Ready Player One. Second was because it was 4/27, and third was because the next day, 4/28, I had signed up to go to a video game competition called FRAG, the Federation of Retro and Arcade Gamers, in Norwich, Connecticut.
Oh my God. If that's not the most nerdy ass thing I've ever heard you say to me, I don't know what is.
Dude, you've called me.
I don't normally have to call you out.
An esport athlete before. I am officially an esport athlete. After going to FRAG.
Well, because you went to FRAG.
I went to FRAG.
Was there a bunch of Monster products around, or any other energy drink that maybe could kill you if you drank 6 of them?
Red Bull was there giving out free energy drinks.
There you go.
Girls in these backpacks shaped like Red Bull cans, just like reaching into each other's backpacks, handing it out. And then NOS was also available. I didn't know they still made NOS.
It's the grossest thing that you can drink on the road, NOS.
But I wanted to watch The Wizard it's in like preparation for that because I'm like, I want to believe that what I'm going to tomorrow will be the closest thing to video Armageddon that happens at the end of The Wizard. I want to believe that
Oh
that's what
man.
Frag is going to be. And I can't be disappointed
Just
when
a
it's
giant
not.
projection screen, 80s music playing. Yeah, man. Like I love it.
Yeah. So both of those things definitely were there. There was a DJ playing the
Yes.
greatest fucking music, and then there were two huge projection screens, one of which was the Super Mario Brothers speedrun competition all day, and the other one was used for like the finals of challenges. Like the Smash Brothers final was up there, the Mario Kart Double Dash final was up there. It was crazy. This was like,
Did you go up against a dude in a running jacket with like sweatbands on every part of his body? Like I have one on my head, one on each arm, one on each leg.
no,
I got
no,
one on
there
my
was
dick.
no,
Let's do
there
this
was
thing.
no one, there was no sweatband warrior, but there's time, Sejohn, because I'll explain why there's time to meet Mr. Sweatbands, because so Frag happens. Frag starts at 10 a.m. and we get there right at 10 a.m. because we don't know if it's like registration. We want to make sure that we will be able to compete. And we get there and like there's vendors and like there's a meal plan that you can buy for $10. That's 2 red tickets and 4 white tickets, and all of the food have a color associated with them. Like really
Red
cool
pills
stuff.
and white pills.
Yeah.
Everything is just all
Everything is
This
video
is the
game.
future.
So we
You ate
walk
in the cafeteria of the Federation, Devin. Of course, it's all pill-shaped food.
So is at a VFW hall, and we walk into the VFW hall, right?
I'm sorry. That's always the greatest moment of a snapback in reality when you actually think about where this event is taking place. It's not like it's called the Federation. It feels like it should be at the very least on a spaceship somewhere. But no, it's just in the VFW hall down the way. Karaoke on Thursdays, guys.
There was reserved parking for bartender only. That was my favorite sign I've ever seen. And I'm like, it doesn't specify the bartender here. I think it's just like, if you're a bartender, you can park here.
Hell yeah.
So-
That's why I've always wanted to be a bartender. The
Just
parking.
the parking. So we walk in, and there are, it's 4x3 tables set up with old CRTs on them, and the first 4 say Retro Gamer Challenge Station 1 through 4, right? They have these big signs to the left and right of them. So, like, this is where if you're going to take part in the Retro Gamer Challenge, this is where that's going to happen. The next row is set up with Mario Kart Wii, Mario Kart N64, and Mario Kart Super Nintendo. And then, like, there's another TV that I think it had some PlayStation 2 games set up there. Right? No, it was another Sega system. Oh, what Sega game was it?
Okay.
It was like a Sega game that I'm like, nobody wants to play this Sega game. What the fuck are you doing?
Was it Seaman or something?
No,
What was
no,
it?
it wasn't a Dreamcast. It was a Sega Genesis, and I'm just like, this is not a beloved Sega Genesis game. And then there's 4 more that was just like random stuff. Like an NES Classic was set up there, and Super Nintendo with Star Fox, and then the PlayStation 2 with like Midway Arcade to fulfill the A in Frag for arcade.
Yeah.
And then the last one was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. So like, that's there. To the left of the, so if we're looking at the when we entered, right? So at the right side there is a board game booth, Citadel Games. I'll give them a shout out. And on the left side, there is an Extra Life charity booth set up, right? Because they're going to be streaming for Extra Life charity. And then next, Retrocade Gaming is set up. I got a copy of Sonic and Knuckles for $10. And I'm talking pristine. It even had the little like lip cover.
That's awesome.
I was so happy. And they had all this other stuff.
Yeah, that's badass.
So I sit down at the NES Classic just to warm up for the Super Mario Brothers speedrunning event, because I'm going to enter the speedrunning event, right? My plans for this event were to enter the speedrun event for Super Mario Brothers and the Retro Gamer Challenge. But oh, so much more occurred. So I beat Super Mario Brothers, and it's like a good time. It's like 6 minutes. And then I hear the guy I went with yelling at for me. So I go over. He's over at Retrocade Gaming. They have a Mega Man challenge. And if you can beat a stage in Mega Man 3, you win a pack of Nintendo Power Cards. Do you remember the Nintendo Power Cards?
Man, like out of the magazine cards?
No. Like, they're like, it's like a wax package. It's yellow, and you open it up, and they're scratch-offs cards. So you scratch off to see what game it is, and then what the hint for the game that you're getting is.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Ridiculous. Like, so freaking the past. Like, so gambling for children. Like, loot boxes are not new. They've always been taking advantage of us as gamers.
Baby's first loot box. Yeah.
All right. So then behind the last row where like the NES Classic was and everything, they had 4 really nice flat screens set up hooked into Xbox 360s for Call of Duty, like LAN play. It's a real thing that's happening.
Come on,
right?
man. PC.
Right? Whatever,
right.
man. I'll give him a break, okay? And I don't even like that part, right? And then you have the frag
it's not like
table.
anybody owns 360s anymore,
Exactly.
so I guess they're putting them good use.
And then, I mean, it's like PC. You just can't use a keyboard and a mouse, so it's inferior in every way. So then you have the frag table, which is like the big long Judas Iscariot and Jesus ate here table. And that's where you go to check in. That's where the Super Mario Brothers speedrun is. That's where the Tetris Marathon is. And, like, so that's it. So you go up there and you meet the guy in charge, and he's like, hi, do you want to register? So we both register for the contest. We're the 13th and 14th to register. And he's like, yeah, no, you can go ahead. Like, you can just explore. So we go and we do that Mega Man challenge. And the reason he's calling me over is he's like, who's the first guy you beat in Mega Man 3? And I go, Magnet Man. It's always Magnet Man. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, you just yelled for me across the damn thing. Yeah, I'm sure. It's Magnet Man. And he goes and he wins his thing. And then I go and I beat Hard Man. And it's like, great. Like, it felt really, really good to sit and like, all right, first challenge won. Day continues.
Nice.
So then we both try to qualify for the Mario Kart Grand Prix, which is racing Rainbow Road in Super Nintendo, N64, and Wii, and the best times make it through to the semifinal, which will be against the 4 best racers. Neither one of us.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because every single one of those versions of Mario Kart plays so differently. Yeah. Sorry, having to jump between them would kill me.
Oh, it was awesome. It was the coolest
thing. I could maybe, like, if I knew I was getting into a Super Nintendo one, like, I would just, like, work on that for the week. Same with NC, like individually, I think I could maybe pull something like that off. But the idea of having to sit down and play through all of those at once would just fry my brain.
The biggest issue that I had with it was the Wii version. You could do it nunchuck or no nunchuck. Yeah. And, of course, I'm going to do it nunchuck, right? What am I, a damn fool?
I don't know, man.
Oh, come on, nunchuck not all the way. But the nunchuck that they had was so janked up from use that I'm like,
of course, because there's a bunch of people around.
No, this is like from use beforehand. We were the first people to register our scores for the day. But then after using
they didn't even have like a nice system for you guys to do this on?
No, it was like the guy who ran its like Wii system got brought in.
Oh God!
So
fantastic.
Yeah. So
amazing.
It was like this. It just made. Oh, you know what else was there? There were 2 TVs for Super Smash Brothers Melee. That's the other thing that was there, because there was a Smash tournament that I'm like, I'm not going anywhere near that, because there are people here who brought their own controllers. Those are the people who are going to win.
Yeah, that's a whole other world. Yeah.
So we register our Mario Kart scores, and like it's still not time for the Retro Gamer Challenge, but they're set up so you can practice. And after using the janked up nunchuck, I'm like, well, I got to practice the Atari game, because the joystick is probably just as janked up. It didn't go right.
Right.
It did not move to the right.
Oh.
So like you had to like
come on, guys, what are you doing?
All the way over to the right to get it to work. And that game, it was Sequest. Like, I'll go over the games. Sequest was the game that you had to do on Atari. In order to get, each game was awarded, you could get between 1 and 5 points if you did certain challenges. In order to get the 5 points in Sequest, you needed to score over 80,000 points. And I know the 3 people who did that.
Which one is Sequest again? Remind me again.
Sequest is an Atari game where you are a submarine, and you need to rescue scuba divers who are being chased by sharks while not getting shot by other submarines.
Right, you need to avoid the other guys. Okay, so yeah, it's man, to not be able to move right then in that game.
Yeah, like
How are you supposed to be taken seriously as a tournament if you cannot bring proper equipment for your? Okay.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know.
sorry.
But like we all did it, and
Bitching
that's why
about
I'm like I was
esports.
I
That's
when
what
it
I'm
was
doing
like
right now.
the first round of the tournament has opened, I was already sitting in the chair for Sequest because I'm like I'm not letting this controller get any more effed up before I score 81,000 points. Which I did. I got
Nice.
all 5 points for Sequest, and that was cool. And then the other round one games were Load Runner, and it was to beat the first 5 levels using less than 5 lives, which was
Shit.
interesting. And I got all
Yeah,
5 on
yeah.
that too. So I got 5 there, 5 there. The next one was Vector Man, which fuck Vector Man. I'm just gonna say it. It wasn't a good game back then. It's still
Uh,
not a good game. To get 5 points, you had to
oh man,
score.
but didn't his visuals blow your mind?
It blew my mind that it ever blew someone's mind. That's what Vector Man's mind blow is. You had to score over 15,000 points in that game in 3 minutes. Is that yeah? It was a 3 minute timer, and it's like
That's kind of nuts.
I don't know if you beat the level. Like if I hadn't died to the boss, the bonuses I would have gotten would have given me the score. Instead, I ended up with
Yeah,
like
maybe that's the theory then.
7,000, and I got 3 points for it. So after the first round, I'm sitting there, with 14 points, feeling pretty good watching other people play. And that's when they start the other tournaments, like the side tournaments. So they have a Street Fighter tournament, which I enter. I won one of my matches. It was against a 9-year-old who afterwards was like, I didn't even sign up for this tournament. And I'm like, it's cool. We had fun. And then they start the Smash Brothers tournament, which I did not sign up for. But they're like, Devin Decker, please report to Smash Brothers. And I sit down with a guy
Okay.
who brought his own controller from home, and who was no word of a lie, wearing a cape.
Oh no, Devin, what are you doing? That's a murder weapon in his hands. Get out.
And it was so bad. I legitimately thought the controller was broken.
Yours,
I could do
or his?
nothing.
Like he brought it from
Mine.
home and it was just covered in candy.
I'm just like, I this isn't doing anything. I'm not jumping. I'm not attacking. But the reason was he was hitting
Well,
me
little
so
did you know,
he was just
he was
rocking my
also
world.
a techromancer. That's why he's wearing that cape, Devin.
Oh man. So I do that and it's just like this is no me gusta. No me gusta.com.
And look, I wanna make
but-
sure that we say like live your bliss. If you want to go out in the world and
yeah,
wear
dude.
a cape, you do
Here's
that.
the
But
thing.
you have to know that if you're walking into a tournament, you are walking into a competition setting, and you are bringing your own tools, wearing a cape. You are making a statement, and I have to say, you have to be able to back that statement up. But it sounds like he did just that.
Oh, he won
But
the
I will
tournament.
say that you
Spoilers
have
for
to know-
everything. He won the whole tournament. Good for him.
Exactly. See, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. If you're gonna walk anywhere in a cape, you better make sure you win the fucking tournament.
But it was double elimination, right? So after that, like, thorough pounding that I took, like, real bad pounding that I took in that, I'm like, well, I'm not going to get bodied like that again. And I ended up winning 3 matches in the losers bracket, like, one more before I was in the final 4. And that last match was, like, down to the wire, both of us over 200% with 1 life left. And it was just like a misstep that made me lose. It was awesome. Like I've never understood Smash Brothers and like the people who play it like that before, but like being in that environment, I'm like, oh man, this gets you jacked up. Maybe it's the 7 Red Bulls.
I need me some NOS. That's what you said.
Oh, you know what? I didn't tell you the last game of round 1, which was 1080 snowboarding for N64. And it was a half pipe challenge.
Hell yeah.
But they didn't tell you it was a half pipe challenge. So like people were just like going down the mountain. And you had to score over 4,000 points just to get 2 points.
Oh
You had to
no.
score over
So
10,000. No, how much is the score on that? You had to score over 10,000 points to get all 5. Nobody got more than 1. Like one person got 6,000 points, and a guy was walking by and he's like, "Who the fuck figured it out?" Like that's the highest score I've seen on this whole day.
Oh man.
So that
That's
whole thing
crazy.
happens. We grab some food. We turn in.
I have to say, Devin, this sounds like it's a pretty messy tournament. I don't know if I'm trying to think of a polite way to say it. Sounds like they ain't got their shit together at this
Oh,
tournament.
well,
Is this
Sejohn,
like a new one or is
this
this
has been
like
going on for 10 years. And you want to talk about messy? We get to round 2, right? Where the games in round 2 are Zoop, Ready to Rumble, Ice Climbers, and Super Mario World. So,
okay.
you know me. You know I'm flying pretty high because Super goddamn Mario World. And the challenge for Super Mario World, I'll lead with that, is complete tubular level within 5 lives. Do you remember tubular? Is that something that I say?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the one that's on Star Road, right? Isn't it one
it's
of
in
the
the
ones up
special
on?
zone. It's the one after Star
Yeah,
Road.
the
Yeah.
crazy, like the
And
crazy Star Road, and it's just all tubes going up and down, and like nothing between them, right?
yeah,
Like I
and
used to
you
fall,
get the
if I remember.
balloons and you have to float
Yeah,
across.
yeah,
All right,
yeah. You got the damn pea balloons. You got to puff up like a fucking yeah.
so I see
That game is crazy.
so I see that that's the challenge, and for 2 points you have to get to the checkpoint in the stage. And I go up to the organizer. I'm like, I'm just curious. There's no checkpoint in tubular, so is it going to be like an arbitrary checkpoint that you guys have set? And he's like, no, there's a checkpoint in that level. I go, no, there definitely isn't. And I had just like played it again on my laptop to make sure. And he's like, no, there is. And I'm like, there isn't. It's the one with the balloons. Like, it's a relatively short level. The difficulty is what makes it feel long. Like, it's not, it's fairly straightforward once you understand the gimmick. And he's like, I'll have to check. But he never got a chance to check because he's like the one guy in charge of it. So then it comes time for Super Mario World. And it's set up. And I'm waiting there to go first, right? I'm like, I'm not getting the 5 points for this one, right? I don't want this controller janked up. I don't want anybody to go before me. I'm finishing tubular within 5 lives. And if you don't lose any lives, you get all 5 points, right? So I'm like, this is the one for me. So I'm sitting there and it's set up, and this little kid comes over and sits down. Now on the file select screen for Super Mario World is a 96 star complete, which you've been there. You've seen me do that. That's beating every level with every exit. That's a perfect clear of Super Mario World. So the kid sits down and starts the file, and he sees that it's at the end of the game. He resets it. He erases that game.
Oh my god!
And I'm
guessing that was the tournament game, right?
And I'm like, oh no, you. And then he goes down and he erases the next one, which only has like 5 levels beat. So like that's not bad. But then he goes to go to the last one, which is a 95 exit complete, and I go, hey, no, they need that for the tournament. And he's like slinks away, and I'm just like, oh, this guy. If this is like this guy's personal copy, he's going to be bummed. So he comes over and he sees like the 2 empty slots, and he goes running and he gets another copy. He's like, I must have given him the wrong cart. And I'm like, no, I don't think you did. And I tell him what happened, and he it's like I told him like that like a beloved family pet had died. Like John Wick, I was expecting this guy to just like get revenge on everybody. And
man, this killer. I mean, the problem is like, right, like this is gonna be an ongoing problem with all of this esports stuff for years to come. People thinking like, oh, I'll just bring my kids to this, and like it's just an arcade, and it's like, guys, it's not that. Like we're like, I don't want to discourage ever. I don't ever want to discourage like people and families getting into this stuff and like kids getting interested in video games and all that. And I'm not saying that they should not be allowed at these things, but you cannot just let them run around like it's just a Dave and Buster's. Like that's not what this is, and like that is the most like heartbreaking thing, because like that you just don't want that kind of crap to happen. No. Like I've been there. I've had a game erased by somebody on me, and I know that feeling. And to know that you did it, like that this happened in a space that was supposed to be a safe space for this dude is just like heartbreaking. That is unfair.
It was kind of hard to watch. I'm not gonna lie. And I didn't notice until it was done. They don't give you like a second chance in those. It's not like, are you sure you want to erase this game? It's like, you want to erase it, it's erased. It's done.
And there's a weird part for you as like somebody that's there that cares about this stuff, but also like you know, you're a grown man. You can't be jumping at a small child in a crowded area. Like you gotta think about this, right? Yeah, exactly. You start weighing that thought in your head. You're like, all right, I should stop this, right? I mean, but it's not mine, so is it my responsibility? And so, you know, clearly you got to the point where it became your responsibility and you took it, which was good. But like, man, how do you stop that kid in the first like couple of seconds of that? Like, there's definitely a moment of hesitation.
Yeah, exactly. And it was this weird thing. But then, like, in the back of my mind too, it's like, if I were running this competition, I'd probably go on eBay and get another copy of Super Mario World. I probably wouldn't bring my 96 star out to the game convention. I'd inoculate for this type of thing that happened.
If I was running this tournament, the games that you played for competition would be in a roped off area that people couldn't just wander up to and do that sort of thing at too. That's the other thing. Like, why is this all being out there for just people to just go up and play with and touch? And like, why was this even allowed to happen?
Yeah. So that whole thing. So then he sits down to finally test the tubular thing, and he's like, "This is not the level." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. That's why I brought it up with you, because it didn't seem like it was the level." And he's like, I don't know what the level I wanted it to be was. So then he goes through and he finds it. It was awesome, which is 2 levels later in the special area. And he's like, thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And he's like, now I got to finish this, like, so that there's a save there. I'm like, don't worry. I'm going to compete here, and then there'll be a save there. Don't worry. And I did. I got through on my first try, and I'm like, yeah, I felt pretty good. Thank you. Like, it was just a weird thing. And then, like, so that was 5 points there. And then I played the other ones, like Ice Climbers. It was the hardest mountain in the game, climb to the top. And if you got to the halfway point, I got to the halfway point, so I got three points on that. Ready to Rumble, which is basically just a fighting game. It was to get a TKO. And I did that without any issue at all. And then Zoop. Have you ever played Zoop?
Oh, man, not in a hot second. I played Zoop through like emulation because, like, we talked about this before. You get like 100 game packs, so like I'm aware of Zoop, but I can't tell you how to play it.
That is a crazy puzzle game that was like a bit too much for me.
Yeah, man.
And so I ended up only getting I got 3 points on that one too. Like, at least I got something on it.
Damn.
But after like the 8th game that I played of the day in like a competition setting, I'm like, man, I'm starting a little fatigued.
That's kind of perfect, though. Your brain is like fried, and then they give you Zoop. Jesus.
Yeah, so then it's like another like cooldown area. Smash Brothers is going on, then the Street Fighter tournament's still going on, and then the Call of Duty tournament starts. And then they're like, so you guys are a team when we register? And we're like, no, we don't want to do Call of Duty. And they're like, no, you're a team, you're doing Call of Duty. So we sit down and we played against like the 9-year-old that I beat in Street Fighter. And they beat us, but only by 1 kill. Nice. And as someone who has like never played Call of Duty, I felt like I held my own pretty well. But that was weird playing Call of Duty.
Afterwards.
I've never played an Xbox 360. That was the first time that I've ever done that.
Well, and it's telling how things were going with their signups, that they were just like, if you're on a team, you're playing this game. That's fits. I'm sorry. Like, we need to fill this fucker out. Like, there needs to be lineups. I don't even
think of Call of Duty like it was Call of Duty 4. Is that retro? Like, I guess it's 10 years old, but still.
We are hitting the point where it's considered retro. Remember that there was just a recent re-release of it.
That's true,
it is considered retro to the point like where we've already had. I mean, I get what you're saying, man, but part of that is also just because we're getting old. We're hitting a point where the games that we thought of as like cool and new, we're gonna have to deal with the fact that someday they're gonna be classics.
I never thought that Call of Duty 4 was cool and new. Moving forward, so then we get to round 3 of the Retro Gamer Challenge, and the games are Tetrisphere for N64, which I got 1 point on because it was to clear 5 stages in time trial. 2 stages got you 2, nice. 3 got you 3, you know that. So I only got 1 there. Twisted Metal Black, which I was so fucking nervous about playing, because I'm not good at Twisted Metal Black at all.
Oh, no, yeah.
It's like just
Twisted Metal Black was weird.
And I love it. Like, don't get me wrong,
control-wise.
We played it every Sunday night for a long time. Like, when I worked at Hollywood Video, I would pick it up from work every Sunday, and we would sit down and play till, like, it was time to go to school the next day. Like, that is a game that I logged a lot of hours in, but never got good at.
Yeah.
But it was if you kill all 5 guys, you get the 5 points, and somehow I did that. Like, and I went outside.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was gonna say one of my favorite things about that game is you could just bumble around and you can kill somebody.
Exactly.
It's hard. It's hard to be good at it, but it's not hard to play, I feel like.
Yeah. And I looked at the controls and I'm like, all right, I can definitely get at least 3 points here. I ended up getting the 5. I went outside. I did a Shiva Blast because I was like just so happy that I got 5 points. And then it was Minecart Carnage and Donkey Kong Country. You know, you have 4 lives to get through, and I did it on my second try. And that's just because
I was gonna say
I got earfed over. Like it would have to be like a frame perfect thing to do this. I got like the last 2 Kremlins you need to jump over in the cart. I jumped, but I hit the very rear of it with the cart, and it killed my first Kong. And then because I was in the air when it landed, it kept me jumping forward with the momentum, and I landed in the other cart. And I'm like, I don't care that I just died. That was the coolest thing ever. I didn't touch the controller, and the game was just like, no, fuck you. You die now. All right, so now we get to the game that is important. The game that is important. The reason why I talked about the Wizard earlier. The last game in round 3 of the Retro Gamer Challenge season was Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, man!
Which is
for those who are not frequent listeners, we just had a big old discussion about some Ninja Gaiden.
And in addition to that, it's the game that they need to play to qualify for Video Armageddon in the Wizard.
In the Wizard.
So like Bader Meinhof is just going crazy, and I'm like, awesome, I'm excited to play this. So like everybody is like waiting to do this game, and I'm watching people not do very great at Ninja Gaiden because was it time challenge? It was just score points before losing all lives. That was the challenge. And for 5 points, you needed to break 100,000 points in Ninja Gaiden. Gaiden,
all right. I don't know if I've ever been able to do that myself, period, because I give up on the game pretty instantly.
It does not award points for collecting droppables, except for a blue and a red bag that will occasionally come out, and that it is 300 or 600 points, depending on the color. You get points for every enemy you kill, but like super arbitrary numbers of points. Like, this guy's worth 100, this guy's worth 400. They have the exact same walking animation. One of them is swinging a bat. The bat guy is the one worth 100 points. I don't understand it.
So why would you go after the bat dudes?
So like I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, the only way to get to 100,000 points is to just beat it as fast as possible, because you get a time bonus at the end of it. Your time clicks down and adds to your score. So I finally sit down after watching like people, no one's getting past 2-2 in Ninja Gaiden, and I sit down and proceed to just blaze through the game. I do not lose a life until 4-1 when I am at 90,000 points. And I'm like, so I'm probably going to do this, right? So I end up getting the 100,000, and the referee's like, you've got your 5 points, you can stop. And I'm like, I'd really like to get to the end of this level, though. I made sure I was the last to play for that reason. And I did, and it felt really cool. But then, like, the other thing that I was thinking of, and I timed myself, and I tried to play, like, exactly as I played at the competition. I actually played worse at home than I did at the competition. In the Wizard, the challenge is whoever scores
the pressure, man.
I don't know if it's the pressure or whatever, but it's whoever scores the most points in 10 minutes. My run through Ninja Gaiden was, like, probably 8 minutes long to get to 100,000. So the Wizard and Lucas Barton, he's so bad, they ain't got nothing on me. I felt pretty cool. And I went outside and I cheered too, because like after watching like nobody get more than 2 points in Ninja Gaiden, it felt pretty good to be like, yeah, I know Ninja Gaiden. That's a game I learned just yesterday.
Man.
So that was really cool.
Fantastic, man.
So then, right, it's sit down time and the Mario Brothers speedrunning is going on, and nobody has finished Super Mario Brothers at this point. I have attempted one time and I died, like, stupid mistake in 8-3. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm just gonna walk away and I'll come back and I'll take it from the beginning, because it was your time, right? They're like, the best time will win the competition. So so after I do that, I take a break, I walk away, and people are playing, and then I get in line to play, and they're like, you're the last one of the night. and nobody's beaten the game yet. So if you finish, you win this competition. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I got through Super Mario Brothers in 10 minutes. Like, I'm like, oh, awesome. I guess I needed that. I needed to know that, like, I was waiting for somebody to set a time, because then I could be like, all right, so I just need to beat that time. I'll be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, you just needed a goal, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
You're a man that needs a destination.
I do need a destination. That's very true. Saving the princess is not enough. But unbeknownst to me, regarding the Retro Gamer Challenge, I thought it was just going to be the top scores were the first, second, third. There was a 13th game that the top 3 competitors would compete in. That was a lot of the word compete in all of its various forms of the dictionary. And Sejohn, the game that the final challenge was in was Super Mario Brothers 3. That's the game from the Wizard.
That's the game from the movie.
And I got second place. I had the second most amount of points. The guy ahead of me had 4 more points than me. And we sat down to play Super Mario Brothers 3. And the challenge was, and this is, I'm not super, like, the challenge was whoever can get the most lives in 8 minutes. So,
okay. Weird. Okay.
Yeah. Super Mario Brothers 3, the second level, has an infinite lives trick. So really it came down to who can execute that trick the best. I ended up taking away second place. I'm not, I'm not a champion, but I did get a silver medal. And actually the prize for second place was a little bit better than the prize for first place. Because first place is like dinner at Mohegan Sun and, a set of dice by Kraken Dice. The prize for second place was a Retron 5. And I'm like, at the video game competition, I think people would prefer to Retron 5.
Hey, man, whatever. You got it.
And I ended up getting it. So I'm like, I feel like the real winner. I'm not going to lie. Plus, like, when it came down to one of the competitors, like, he did not know that trick. So, and he was down to, like, 1 life just playing the game, trying to get more lives. And the guy who was first place, he was, like, nailing the trick. So, like, I had, like, 20 lives, and I'm like, I'm just going to go see how far I can get. And I got the 2 warp whistles, and I was in World 8, and I'm like, I feel like I kind of won. Because I'm a speedrunner. I don't do things like, I'm going to sit in World 1, 2, and collect 1 million lives so I can beat this game. I only need the 5 lives you gave me, Super Mario Brothers 3. But
what is a good word for that? Like trick hunting. Like you're not a trick hunter. You're a speedrunner, right? Like yeah, glitch hunter. That's a good one. Yeah, glitch hunting. We got to start that shit up. Esports, new wing of esports, glitch hunting.
Yeah, because they exist.
I'm sure it already exists.
I knew that thing existed, but it's like one of those things where I'm like, I don't ever do this. Like I know.
Well, that's like those. That's like those dudes that recently who sat through and figured out how to beat the time challenge on that on the elevator level, right, of Mario, and they figured out that there was a way that you could glitch through the bricks in a very specific way, and it took this dude 1 billion tries to get it exactly right, but he did it and he videotaped it, so it's qualifies as this crazy thing. But there are people out there that do exactly that. They will sit around and sort through code, play through every level, see what they can figure out to find that glitch that will make everything open up to them. It's crazy.
Where I want to finish the game so I can start a new game. Done.
Yeah.
So that was fun. It was a really cool, crazy day. All the wizard stuff. And, of course, all this wizard, Bader Meinhof is happening. So I'm tweeting about it. And this is the, epilogue to that. Is some guy who on Twitter is at Nicktendo. I'm not even kidding. He's at Nicktendo. Is hey, at Devon D. Decker, you seem to be a really big fan of the Wizard. Do you think you could use your clout to help convince Shout Factory to release a 30th anniversary DVD of it, including the extra hour of footage that was cut out? And I'm like, where am I in this fight? I don't have any chit in this game. I like the movie The Wizard. Yeah. What clout do I have? What are you talking about, Nicktendo?
But to answer your question, Nicktendo, yes, we can.
Dude, but then Shout Factory,
so here we are, everybody.
Shout Factory tweeted back at me like, well, there's already a Blu-ray release scheduled for this year, so licensing will probably be difficult. I guess if you could convince Universal to give up the rights, we could do it, but it seems like a high mountain to climb. And then Nintendo like speaks on my behalf, like, Devon D. Decker would really like it if you could release the rights to this movie to Shout Factory. And I'm like, how did I get wound up in this? Like, what happened? But yeah, we are here. We are on the Say Report.
Man.
You're a
Become
Say
a martyr
Report
for the
listener.
cause.
Get at Universal and be like, let's get the lease. No, I don't know. I don't want to see.
You gotta get at Nintendo, and you gotta be like, dude, you're like that drunk friend at a bar, like the too drunk friend at a bar. Like, get out, get off of this fight, man. No, my friend could take you. No, shut up, guys. No, hold on. I don't even know.
We're not even friends. What are you doing? He's gonna get us that hour of footage. We're gonna see what happens. What more does that
Fred
movie
Savage
need?
nip slip.
We're gonna talk about The Wizard in a year. That's a promise. That's like not a Say Report promise. That's like a real promise. That's like I Promise You I Will, the song from Napoleon Dynamite.
Nice.
That's just called
Excellent.
The Promise. That's the name of that song. Listen to it; it's really good. Newfound Glory did a great cover of The Promise from the screen to your
God.
stereo too. Which you know what? Get on the internet. You go to YouTube and type in Newfound Glory from the screen to the stereo. Those are two really good albums. I'm gonna just be sharing that truth right now.
Devon, I feel like you've lost.
I've
your
lost
mind.
the thread.
I feel like this frag tournament has just completely scrambled your entire.
You know why we recorded early today, Sejohn? Because I needed to get it out. I needed to get it all out, and I feel cleansed now. This was like confession, and I loved it. I loved every moment. Thank you for listening to me talk about retro video games. Anything to add before we do the closing remarks?
No. Check out The Wizard and be ready. Apparently, a year from now, we're gonna get deep into the Wizard.
We're gonna figure
not
out.
the Wiz. That's a different thing.
Out that there is a wizard that is keeping people from succeeding in New Jersey in order to steal their youth. That's the coolest thing that we discovered in Coyote Ugly. Nobody whose picture's on that wall amounts to nothing. You've had four heart attacks.
That's going to be the theme for us doing these movies, by the way, is we're going to keep doing movies with wizards in them in some iteration.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. That's a Say Report promise, though. It's not like
the next one we'll watch will be Drakenheart.
Oh, dude, nice job. Nice Drakenheart pull. All right, but until Drakenheart time, I've been Devon Decker. You can yell at me about anything I said at Devon D. Decker on Twitter.
And if you want to argue with me about whether or not the dragon is a wizard in Dragonheart, you can get me at Siege versus the World. I'm just saying, he magically pulls a piece of his own heart out to save that guy. I'm just putting that out there. But anyway, at Siege versus the World on Twitter.
Yeah, dragons are wizards. It's not even a thing. You know who would know about this? The English guy, Will. I know he's Welsh, but...
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.